Hey everybody, welcome to the Enhance Your World show. I am your co-host, Chris Alba. Larkin is just finishing up with some clients and will be joining us shortly. Today we're going to talk about how to enhance our trust in our lives, in ourselves, in each other, our relationships, our society, all these things. It can be so daunting and challenging to stay motivated or inspired, if you will, um, as we grow through this process of life. We've all gone through circumstances and challenges in our lives that we didn't see coming. Many of us have been abused, abandoned, betrayed in different ways by our humanity, by those that we care about or cared about. And I would challenge you to really look at that if you don't care about somebody because of something that happened to you, to investigate that deeper, because it has been my experience that the more I put up a wall to feeling the feelings of discomfort, the more I limited myself from the abilities to overcome whatever circumstances it was. Eventually, I probably did it in many different ways, many forms, whether that was developing a new mindset, whether that was um, going deeper within my emotions and feelings and going beyond my mind and feeling the energy and the resistance and the things within my body, learning how to release those things is a process, and it's something that no one can do for me. As an energy healer, as a Reiki master, as a practitioner of over 15 years, and coach and entrepreneur for over 20, I can tell you that the only one that is going to help you develop the trust in the circumstances of life that you are going through is you. And that's when we go back and we look back at our successes. We look at our trials and our tribulations, only to understand that the reason that there's some energy there is because we really cared for something, whether it was real or make believe, right, in our imagination, in our belief system. And when that identity got shattered, when that box of comfort um, got breached, what happens within those bonds of those relationships is how we choose to heal together, to hold space for one another's thoughts, feelings, maybe emotional reactions. And the better we get practice at doing that within ourselves, right, the better we can do that for other people. To truly sit with our sadness, to truly be okay to cry, to feel rage, and express this in healthy ways. There's all these different methodologies and all these different practices. And I think we complicate things in so many ways because until we know ourselves and how to work within our energy, it's almost a form of seeking or an addiction to grow our awareness beyond our knowing. But we get to a point, and I'm speaking from personal experience within my life and those that I've witnessed and I've worked with. We get to a certain point to where we need to outgrow that identity and those practices and those ways. And so a lot of us have been taught and conditioned to look outside of us to another expert that seems like he knows what, or he or she knows what they're talking about. They have the results that you want. And if you follow their routines, their habits, their things, that you can obtain similar results. And that's true because it's an energy. But how you're doing that for yourself, within your daily life, that's what's going to bring you in the results. So really what you want to enhance isn't your trust in others. It's the trust within yourself, that no matter what happens, whatever shows up, that you're going to show up, that you're going to be resilient, that you're going to persevere, that you're going to move through in all the ways that you want to develop your character, in those ways that you want to be remembered by those people that you touch with your life. Absolutely, Merrily said, continue learning is the evolution. And I think that's absolutely spot on, and learning is, to me, a lot more than just reading about it in a book. We can read about it in a book, or someone can talk to us about it, and it creates maybe a mental or an emotional awareness that we can walk with. But it's how are we showing up with it? How are we integrating it into our 3D cause and effect lives? There's so many people in the pop culture and social media and all that kind of stuff that are trying to transcend cause and effect, and it's a form of spiritual bypassing. It's okay, this is what's going on, this is what we can do about it, and facing it head on. That's how we heal, that's how we overcome, that's how we grow, that's how we forge our bonds of trust within ourselves and each other, is by facing it, not pretending that you're not part of the problem. Because once you understand that you're part of the problem, then you can actually be part of the solution. If you don't think that you're part of the problem, those that you're speaking with, those that you're trying to walk a higher path with, aren't really going to identify with us, in my view. I've had the opportunity to try to work with some therapists along the way, and it's been a very illuminating experience, and it taught me a lot about stuff, and some of that didn't include me. But I also am an advocate of being able to sit and reflect in your own stuff and be able to develop that authentic self of who you truly want to be. And when we don't show up that way, that's okay. That's where grace, that's where understanding, that's where compassion, that's where love can be kind of a salve, so we can kind of move on and not continue to bleed all over what we have going on. I'm reflecting on all these wonderful people, all these wonderful experiences that we have on a day-to-day basis. I gave a talk this weekend at an event, and we were talking about awareness, and whether we realize it or not, we change every moment of the day by what we see, what we sense, what we feel, what we think, what we're exposed to. And many of us cling to these certain identities and these certain ways and these certain things because it helps make sense of the true potential of our lives and the abundance of opportunities and resources that are at our disposal on every given moment of every given day. The first thing that we have to do is be aware of its existence. And then we have to go on a journey to acquire that, whatever it is. Whether it's to have the happy, healthy, harmonious lifestyle and relationships, and the myth of self-sufficiency, because there is no such thing as true self-sufficiency, because we're always in some kind of relationship. And even I was capable of producing all the foods, all the resources that I need, my family needs, to sustain life and take care of things on a material level, I will be enslaved to that process and that system of making sure that all those foods, all those animals, all the things that it takes to have all the equipment, all those things are maintained, so I can continue to live that existence. And that's wonderful. And that's going to work great until I'm in a physical situation where I'm not able to do that. And then somebody else has to step in to help take care of that. Because if not, the relationship with our nature isn't being nurtured and isn't being maintained at that certain frequency. And that's going to change the outcome. So your plants might die off, things might start becoming chaotic. And that's when we start to grasp at old identities and things like that. And, when we can sit in that chaos, usually there's emotions that come through with this chaos, and it's frustration and anger and sadness and grief, and the things that people don't want to necessarily feel. And so then we try to put it in a safe container, in a safe place, and we either blame or project onto somebody else, or we put it into this box of well, there was nothing that I could do, and it is what it is, and whatever, and we just let it sit in there, and we put it in our closet and hope one day that it doesn't fester. And through my life, and especially in this I guess somewhat public view of things, I've talked about a lot of my experiences of pain and darkness and despair, and some of the things that I did along the way because I thought it was the right thing to do, because that was the opportunity that was presented to me, and it was for a short period of time until I gained new awarenesses, gained new resources, gained new whatever, and then it was time to let that go so I could go on to the next thing. And the more we can do that without resistance, then the greater flow that we have, the more trust that we have in the process, because life is a process. Eckhart Tolle once said that you cannot improve. I like the word enhance, but you cannot improve upon your life. It's impossible. You're given a life and if you're not grateful for the life that you're given, then you're not going to be able to do anything for it. That's my own interpretation of it. But he said, what you can improve on, what you can enhance on, is the way you go about life, the circumstances, the thoughts, the feelings, all those different things. And the more that we're willing to go through the hard stuff with ourselves, with other people, the tighter bonds that we have with each other, the more trust that is automatically developed. And we can let people down, I know I've done that a lot in my life, because something's come up and I'm not able to show up the way that they're used to me showing up. And I've let myself down because I've let myself not show up the ways that I truly wanted to show up, because I was actually feeling something else, and I wanted to honor that for what it was and truly feel it through. Because once I got through the void, the emptiness feeling, the numb, that's when it got fun. That's when I am able to create from any moment the experience that I want to have, whether I want to move towards something or move away from something. I have the ability to do that within my mind, within my heart, and within my physical body. And if that's not some sort of self mastery, then I don't think I've understood this journey. You know, it is hard to not react when someone's yelling at you. It is hard not to want to reciprocate things that are undesirable, but that's part of our character. And if we would choose to want to develop that part and trust that, you know, we're growing in the ways that we need to grow, and we can communicate in ways and express ourselves in ways that are going to help heal the disconnect within our humanity, because humanity itself is the only part of nature that harms itself. Isn't that wild to think about? There isn't another plant or another animal that I am aware of that intentionally harms itself, except for the human being. And we're so evolved. We're so we have all this knowledge and no wisdom about it. And Eckhart Tolle and so many other people talk about it. You know, it's intelligence isn't necessarily about knowing how to develop a better bomb. It's the wisdom to know why you don't need the bomb in the first place. Because why are you wanting to kill each other off? We're in a place in this modern world where scarcity is only a mindset, and the more we step into being abundant within our nature, I mean, it's been proven all over the world. People growing foods in the desert and parking lots or wherever it needs to be grown, and purifying waters, and you know, the things that we absolutely essentially need to be a thriving humanity, not a thriving society, because that's a set of rules that we all have to play by, even if we don't necessarily agree with those rules. But true humanity, the nature of our true beingness, is a duality, sometimes people would say, of light and dark. And the light of awareness will always eliminate the shadows of the unknown, the undesirable, the lower frequencies of things that people don't like. It's finding that higher reason, that higher purpose, that helps us enhance the trust within ourselves, which then we can extend out to life itself, and saying, whether I prefer this or not, I know that this is going to help me some way, somehow, in a way that I can't see yet, because I haven't been exposed to the light that I need to make sense of it. So being in the void, being in the unknown, and being able to trust within your heart that you're safe, trust within the 5 physical senses that you are safe, allows the mind to do whatever it needs to do, to play out whatever narratives that it needs to play out. And you're not going to mislead yourself, because you're going to always be grounded and centered in your heart and your body. Now, if you're not in an emotionally safe place, your heart's going to tell you to get out of there, because you need calm and peace to make sense of the chaos that's up here. If you're in a physically violent space, your body isn't going to think anything other than get the F out of here. You know, there's not going to be a whole lot of back and forth. And once you get into that safe environment, mentally, emotionally, physically, well, then your whole being is in harmonious vibration, and you're going to be walking your highest timeline. You're going to be manifesting the things that you need in your life to remind you of what no longer serves you, what to let go of, and what to lean into, because that is what we our spirit, the higher senses of our dualistic self help move us towards. Hi, Larkin. Sorry.
No, please go. Please keep going. I'm trying to catch on to what you're doing so I can feel
Yeah. So,
connection with what you're talking about.
you know what really has been coming up for me over the last week or so, and is how to develop the trust. Like, someone asked me, had made a comment like, I have doubts about certain things. And I said, well, I do too, but I also have faith that I have an openness and a willingness to go through whatever that comes up to disprove those doubts. Because those doubts are saying that we haven't been tested in these certain ways. So our egoic knowing doesn't know if it's actually true or not. And that's okay. It's and I'll use our show as an example. We do our best to show up when we say we're going to show up. We don't always do that. I hold myself accountable for that. But I still want to continue to show up. I want to continue to make that effort. I want to keep enhancing that practice. So I develop within myself a better and better capability in all areas of my life, not just one thing or the other.
And see, for me right now, and this is a great example, because right now, I have to be accepting of and perfectly okay with the fact that I'm late for almost every one of my broadcasts.
Sure.
I am. And that's okay. If people value it and they can get on, that's fantastic. But that's the way I can show up right now because of the types of the lifestyle I've chosen. The animal rescue, all the animal stuff. It would be like me having a dozen kids,
Sure.
And so, and that's true. But a lot of times, hi, Fiona. Hi, Morley. A lot of times this is, and you kind of mentioned this in a mix. I've heard you in the things you were talking about today in a mix of things, not so directly, but this is also something that we have to deal with in so many other areas of our life. I mean, all of us, just in the fact that I saw this quote yesterday. I know it sounds like I'm bouncing around, but I saw this quote last night and I realize now it really pertains to this. Not everyone else or no one else really has to understand you and what you're doing or why for it to be what you need to be doing, for it to be valuable, right? Like I can have expectations and the norms of society that I know mean something. Okay. Like on my mastermind, I want and expect my clients to show up and I want and expect them to show up on time. Now I'm, ADHD, I take on too much and I'm completely I'm in a multiple worlds and dimensions all the time. So for me to clamp down, those are my excuses, but they are real things that impact me. And so for me, my schedule is impacted and it is rude to the rest of the world. It's inconsiderate. It's disrespectful. It makes me seem unorganized. But the truth of the matter is I'm doing so much amazing shit that I couldn't do if I wasn't the way that I am. And I think when we understand that it's a journey, that's part of self-acceptance, but it's a journey. If I was always on time and always organized and had all the stuff together, there's a lot of other things I wouldn't have. I would not be the same person on here with the same things to offer. And so I've had to learn to accept that, be okay with that. It doesn't mean I don't have a bigger vision or a greater goal to be able to do all of this and to always be on time.
Right.
And to always have, that's great. But I think for all of you listening, translate this to, hold on, Fiona, we'll get to your question. I want you to really listen to what I'm saying, Fiona, and what we're saying, because it actually pertains to your question. Because addiction is also habits and repetition. Okay. So while I'm doing all these amazing things and serving other people, I'm also evolving out of and changing my process of how I show up. That for me works fine, but maybe for everyone else it doesn't. Or for me, maybe for me, it doesn't work fine. I probably lose a lot of listeners because I'm always doing animal rescue or this or that, or I've taken on too much and I get on late. And that's my natural consequence, but I'm okay with that.
Right.
Because it's not going to change like this. So
Right.
guys, and then we'll get into your question, Fiona, but I want you to listen because what I'm saying is going to pertain to our answer. We always think we know, we believe our thoughts. And when we can relax into the fact that everything is a process and part of self-love and self-acceptance, which also allows us to love and accept others, is accepting where you are right now.
Yep.
And doing the best you can, even if that means, oh my God, I've been doing this for decades and I don't seem to be able to change anything. The difference is, do you know you're in the process of transforming it? And if you haven't quit and you haven't given up and you're trying new and different things and you're getting out of your comfort zone, then you are in the process of transforming it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. I want to read this, Chris, before your second question, Fiona. I tried faith before to lose my doubts, but it wasn't for me. Okay, it actually is for you. So I'm already going to correct you there. I find feelings in earth and nature and animals. Yes. Does addiction stop me opening up? So I'm going to let Chris start with this, but I want to say this, Fiona. If I had a half a penny, a half a cent for every time someone said to me, I had faith or I had belief before or I trusted before, but now I've learned that doesn't work for me, or that's not for me, or I long since given up because I was shown that doesn't work, I would be beyond billionaire status. I mean, I would be the wealthiest woman on the planet.
Well,
go ahead. I'm sorry. That is, perfect example of the ego right there. You try something over and over and over and over and over, and you allow your ego to convince you, oh, you've tried this and it didn't work. It made life worse. That is the number one way your ego will get in the way. And the only reason I was able to coach myself out of my deep shit on my own is because I was so tenacious. I didn't care how many times I failed. No matter how many times I failed, I would just get right back up. But most people aren't like that. Most people get really worn down by exactly that type of sentence. I know you're bursting with this, Chris. Go for it.
Well, the interesting thing about trust is it is in both ways. So I tried faith and it didn't work is still a trust, just because it just didn't work the way you believed it to, which is the challenging thing, because faith and belief are two separate things. Faith is understanding that your belief is going to change along the way if you can stay open-minded and open-hearted. But it is challenging because, again, we've been told by society and our upbringings that we're supposed to be a certain way. And so when we experience things, especially as children, and didn't live up to the standards of those authoritarian figures that helped keep us safe, and this is a lot of the teachings of Gebar Mate, then we start to develop separation within ourselves because we're told you're a punk, you're a challenge, you're a bad kid, you're this, you're that, you're the other, you're no good, you're this, that, or the other. And then all of a sudden, unconsciously, we carry that ghost in our head of those times, of those experiences when we felt that way, and we were told that by someone that we really trusted, loved, and cared about. And until we can take that power back and say, you know what, only I can decide what I believe is true. Only I get to decide how validated my feelings are. Whether someone can acknowledge them, accept them, agree with them, like them, whatever, my feelings are my feelings. Just like my taste buds are my taste buds. Just like the way I hear things is the way I hear things. I'm never going to be able to truly authentically express and communicate those things to somebody else to give them the experience that I have, because I'm supposed to experience me. Larkin's supposed to experience her. And, and absolutely, I found somewhere in that balance of what Larkin was talking about with time, and working with a lot of spirit-minded folks. Our lives, things come up. People ask us, like, like when we get to these, powwows and retreats and all this, clock time is out. It's spirit time. And
that's where I am all the time.
Right. And it's so easy for us to get there. And even though that sometimes I'm not super busy, I'm still late. Why? Because I'm super busy sitting there staring out the window, looking at a bird, and I'm just not even paying attention to the clock time, because I've gotten so used to carrying that way of life with me that sometimes it is a challenge to balance the two. And I've recently have decided for myself that I wanted to step more into certain things so I can be more consistent to show up for certain people, and at least I'm there. If it doesn't happen when it's there, okay. It is what it is. I got introduced at the talk this weekend, and all of a sudden I heard, you need a chair for this. So I'm like, I just got introduced. I'm like, I got to go get a chair first, and I just walk off and go get my chair. And I heard the guy that, was emceeing the host me is like, well, apparently he needs a chair, and it was just like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, like the 20-year-old version of Chris that first spoke in front of 200 people wouldn't even have thought that he would have had the okayness to just, I want to be more comfortable for this, so I'm going to go get a chair. I'd be like thinking about, what people are going to think about me, and, is this, what impact is this going to have on my talk or whatever? And I'm like, I've realized that, no, that does have an impact on my talk, because if I can accept where I am fully and completely and still understand that it's going to have an impact on other people, both positive, negatively, and in a sense of indifference, because it didn't matter to them at the time, then I'm going to freeze about what I'm talking about. Then I'm going to try to maneuver and manipulate my language in a way to try to create a desired account, desired outcome, if you will. And then I'm not actually being authentic, because I'm trying to be manipulative in a certain way to get a certain result. And I've created this archetype of who I need to be, how I need to be, how I need to speak, so I can get that certain result. And I think I can't speak for Larkin, but for me, in the industries that we're in, they tell you have to niche, you have to niche, you have to niche, you have to niche, because that changes the way you communicate. And the thing that I've learned about my experience of the way I've walked is I've made a difference in everybody's lives in one way or another, period. And if it didn't move them in that moment to sign up with me, to work with me, to whatever, to benefit my professional life, that's the reason that's my spiritual path. That's my walk. I heard someone say today, take away pastors' paychecks and the buildings that the churches are in, and see how many people show up. And that is a powerful statement, because what he's talking there is true character, true spirituality, true beingness, true authenticity. Yes, we want to get compensated for our time and our energy that we put into things, so we can then share it within our, in our lives, and take care of ourselves on the commercial level. And it's a lot easier to go to the grocery store sometimes than it is to grow a garden. And then there's the debate on which one's better.
Which one's better, but
well, the challenge with, Charles Eisenstein said once, the thing that's challenging about being in the place of where we are in this public thing is it's all based on information. So someone that has one set of information and someone that has someone else's set of information are going to seem at dueling ends, because one might be for it for this reason and one might be against it for another reason. And really all that's doing is showing the light of the whole truth of what we know and what we don't know. And so many of us have a hard time presenting information and then being able to receive information from other people that differentiates from what we know and hold as true from our experience, in a compassionate way, to see how it can be true versus why our way is truer than their way or their information.
So I want to bop down real quickly with Fiona's comments, just because, and I also saw Marilee, learning is the evolution. Yeah, it's not learning even, it's awakening. It's becoming more conscious. Learning is a cognitive thing in human form. Awakening and remembering and becoming more conscious is entirely different. But yes, it is an evolution. I want to just very quickly. So does addiction stop me from opening up? Yes. And it replaces opening up. But here's the thing I want to say about that. And I'm going to scroll down through these quickly, because Chris really covered that explanation so well. But I want to get to these specifically, because all these comments and questions mean something different. They're all different important aspects of what you're trying to figure out. And the thing is that when we have addiction, it's replacing and compensating for something else. Mm-hmm. It's not so much about opening up to others. You don't have to open up for others. I mean, I am a total introvert. Nobody believes that. I'm confident out with talking to people. I'll get in front of 5,000 people, no problem. Whatever the case is, I smile and say hi to everyone. Being introverted and extroverted has nothing to do with that. It has to do with where and how you recharge. I'm very open and vulnerable with everyone on here. Just share. But it doesn't mean I'm not a very private person. I'm a very private person. I'm actually exceedingly shy, believe it or not. So when you ask, does addiction stop me from opening up? Opening up about what? And the reason I'm throwing this out there, Fiona, is because I feel like we live in a world where, at least I found this in my experience. Everyone's always like, oh, if you just open up and share with me about it, if you just tell everybody about it, you got to be open and honest. No, you don't. Get a journal. You don't, just because we live in an age where we're expected to broadcast our children in the bathtub and who we went on a date with last night and our latest hair color on social media, and we consider that our norm, those really aren't relevant things. Spirit says, consciousness says, when you keep those things most sacred to you, to yourself, like your goals, your ambitions, they actually are more powerful for you. So when you're saying opening up, let's just erase that whole concept and instead say, how about being radically honest with yourself first, addiction stops you from being radically honest with yourself first. It's not really about opening up to anyone else. It's about, are you hiding from yourself? Because when you have addiction, you're hiding something from yourself. You're hiding something. But it's about your relationship with you in source, your relationship with you in life, your relationship with you in your soul. Okay? So depending on what you meant by opening up, Fiona, understand that it's really about, we're trained and taught to run and avoid pain and struggle. But when we do that, that's resistance, and what you resist will persist.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking really about opening up, it's about, are we being honest and authentic with ourselves first? Because when you're doing that with and for yourself, then you will do it with life and with others in the world. If you can't do it with yourself, there is really no opening up to anyone or anything else. Okay? And then if I scroll down, let's see. I've obviously seen you on Zoom, Larkin. Yeah, well, yeah. Let's see. Expressing is so hard. Okay, so that's fine. Some people just aren't expressive people. That's not their modality. But
Well, I would challenge that, because that's what you're talking about, is you have to express the energy. So whether it's in a journal, whether it's with somebody else, whether it's to a tree, whether it's to your pet, whether it's going and working your body out, you have to express that energy in some way, for, like you were saying, to feel the resistance and move through the resistance to get to the other side. And the modality really depends on what you need at that time. Sometimes people need to express in a journal, or write a note and burn it. Why? Just to express all that stuff, and then burn it, to send it to spirit, however you want to say it. Or you can say, so no one can ever find it. Because a lot of people are afraid to talk about their shadow self and some of their dark, deep desires or fantasies, or, those various different things. So, and to find people that are open enough and willing to hold the safe space for you to share those things with somebody, can seem daunting. So being able to write it into a journal and then burn it and say, okay, then I've expressed it. I don't ever have to do it. I shared a story once about this, about, I was as a teenager, I did stupid stuff. And one of the stupid things that I did, and I call that stupid because it was hurtful. It was inconsiderate. And I can accept that I did it, and I don't like that I did it. And I apparently still hold a little resentment to that, using those languages and terms. So I'm always learning too. But I wanted to open up a turtle shell. And because I wanted to see if I could do it. And I was sharing this story with one of my classmates, and my teacher heard it. And he looked at me with all the love, all the kindness, and all the compassion that one could muster, and said, "What did that turtle do to you?" And I had to pause and sit with it. And the answer to my response was, all it did was cross my path in a time where I was wanting to be destructive. And I didn't care about hurting something else. And when I woke that up within myself, a lot of things changed for me. Not overnight. It's a process. But that uncovering of, why am I so hard on myself? Why am I so hard on others? And not having a way to express that kept me from gaining the awarenesses that I needed to release that.
Very true, Chris. What I want to do though is I want to go back to what I was saying, because I agree with you, but I think you misunderstood what I was trying to say.
Okay, good.
I'm going to start over completely here. So what I was saying was, in your quote, feeling expressing is so hard. And I think the sentence I started with was, that really depends on your modality. Some people are expressive people and some people are not. I'm going to fill in everything Chris just said, which I was also going to share, that the way you express, the next thing I was going to say was, the way each person needs to express the energy is very different. But what's really important when you're saying I'm feeling it's hard to express is that it's about interpreting energy. Expressing, and you don't have to, as Chris was saying, you don't have to express or explain to anyone. You don't even have to understand yourself. It could be that, like for me, I'm a very expressive person. I'm very good at interpreting energy and feeling and situations and putting it into words and communicating it. I always have been. I've always had a strong need to do that. But for some people, it's silently taking a walk in the woods and allowing the energy and the feeling and the emotions to bubble up. Sitting down and journaling or crying, which, I mean, I've done a ton of journaling. For some people, they need to do it they need to go work out, or they need to go take a run, and they're expressing the energy by getting it out physically first. But for every individual, Fiona, and for anyone who's listening, even on the rebroadcast, for any individual, we first need to get just the extra energy and crap of our cognitive mind expressed first. And by expressed, we don't mean explaining it or talking about it or even making it in a way that anyone else can understand. As Chris was saying, it just means to express the energy. To express really means to release and to send out. So when we're doing that, like I tell my clients, part of the requirement of the mindset coaching is they have to do exercise and they have to journal. So some of them choose Tai Chi or yoga. Some of them choose taking a walk 5 days a week for 30 minutes. But when you sit down to journal, the first, it'll get shorter the more you journal. If you start journaling every day, you might only have to express for 5 or 10 minutes. But when you first start journaling, it might take you a few weeks to get all the mental and emotional energy crap out before you can get down to anything good. I mean, my productive journaling didn't happen until, I had done a lot of expressing my emotions and my thoughts and my confusion and my chaos on paper. And that was underneath doing martial arts and doing dance. So Fiona, expressing can be a process for each and every person. We're not taught to express in this world. And a lot of people with addictions, we're not allowed to express. They were taught that it wasn't okay. Don't share your feelings. Your feelings don't matter. Keep it to yourself. So just understand, if you take what Chris said about that response and what I said and sort of, combine them and take what you need from that. Let's see. I think it's awakening. I need that. So, let's see. Hi, C. Chris. Welcome. So I'm glad you get all this, Fiona, but I just wanted to, when you say chaos reigns, chaos is in thoughts. If wherever there's chaos or confusion, that's your ego, which is synonymous with your mind, which is synonymous with thoughts. That's what Eckhart Tolle teaches. Where there's peace, where there's love, where there's abundance, that's where your ego is not in the way. That's your consciousness. Okay. I see Ward. Hi, Ward. Ward has a great comment here too. I want to mention this though, real quickly. Chris and I are putting together a program. He does coaching. I do coaching. And there's also an Awakening Your Intuition program that I have. What I've been doing is I have been offering free 20-minute discovery calls. And what I've been doing is I've been finding there are people that need certain things that match what my different colleagues have. So what I'd like to offer to you guys too is if you want a free 20-minute discovery call, it is not a sales call for me and my coaching. It is not a free reading. It is not a free coaching call. I will not be coaching you on the call. It's something I'm trying out to see if I can help 100 people or more before January. But what I really want is I want to see results. I know I'm throwing this in here, Chris, but this has become very powerful the past few weeks, actually. Because it's something Chris and I are going to use also to help see if people are a good match for the program that we're putting together. It's about assisting listeners to take the next step. So, I only do 5 of them a week. If you guys are interested in that, you can message me at larkinsreadings.com. But it's an assessment call. And that means I'm going to use my intuitive abilities and my psychology background and neuroscience and mindset background to see where it is you are and where you want to go and give you an assessment depending on what you can afford. So it might be that what you really want and need is to get through addiction and to overcome and heal. Then I'm going to send you to do private coaching or work with Chris, and you guys can work out whatever you can do. Maybe it's, that you really want you need some serious mindset coaching. Then I may offer you the 3 levels, like free, low cost and really in-depth coaching that I can offer. Maybe it's other people I know that are doing other things that I know who you're a good match for. Regardless, maybe you can't afford anything. Then I'm going to say, these are the teachers online that you need to follow. And these are the amount of times per week you need to immerse yourself in this if you want to get results. But like I said, I won't only do 5 of these a week. But if you guys are interested in that, you can private message me. I have a nice circle of colleagues and resources. But what I see you guys on here and you ask us questions. You have a great conversation. But what really needs to happen is, and like Fiona, this is a good thing for you to think about. Like, what are you going to do about it? You've heard Chris and I share our stories of what we did. But the question is, guys, when you get off of here and we're gone, what are you going to do today, tomorrow, next week? How long have you been saying you want to change or transform something? And that's really, really important. This is interesting, Chris. Word says, I once wrote this. I must be honest with my own respect, admit and show that I offered my soul to suffer pain and always be, but resting on the idea that you are happy. And your soul makes a choice and you have free will, but you guys can always choose happiness. Just remember, happiness is temporary. It's a state of mind. Joy and peace is who and what you are already. Yeah. Chris, do you have anything to add to any of that?
Well, just to mirror what you were saying, a lot of that's available also on enhancingyourworld.com. There's a 30-minute talk to schedule, and all the videos and resources and all that kind of stuff that we use available on there and at no cost. So if people want to check that out, that'd be cool. As far as what Ward said, I kind of understand that in a certain way, but my soul has never suffered pain, so I don't know how to relate to that. Like, my soul doesn't; it's already
perfect.
Yeah. So there's no separation, there's no suffering. It's just, this is what it is. Okay. And it's like, you stub your toe, do you go, ouch, I stubbed my toe, or do you grab your toe and then the rest of your day is ruined because your toe hurts? It that's the part of our expressing this human thing, and being able to, again, it's dancing with yourself first. And when you can dance well by yourself, then someone else is going to want to join in with you because it looks like a lot of fun. And then it goes from there, talking about personal leadership and all that kind of stuff. Larkin, have you ever heard of the importance of the first follower?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because that person has got to have more faith than the leader, because the leader's just doing their thing and they're like in their belief and they're feeling good and they're doing, all the thing. But that first follower has to have some blind faith that individual knows what they're doing and where they're going and all that stuff. But if that first follower can develop that level of faith and that amount of trust and all that, then by referral, and we do this every day in our lives, oh, you need to talk to so-and-so, or you need to meet so-and-so. I think you guys would make a good fit, whatever. That is the first follower mentality is I know someone that I trust and believe in, and I think you guys should meet because I think it'll be beneficial. And so working off this concept, that's how a grassroots movement or any large movement gets started within our humanity, as a few like-minded, like-hearted individuals stepping in together and say, let's learn to dance. But before those individuals can come together truly as one, they have to purify their own individualism to the point to where it's centered between, and everybody, I think everybody's frequency is different, of being a service and receiving service. People have different levels of that, right? Some people can just give, and then they don't have anything left to give, and they're still trying to give. And then there's other people that they give until they have a certain threshold and they can't give any. Everybody has their own self-protection, what they feel is best for them, and I'm not trying to poo-poo or anything on anyone's where they're at or where they're trying to go. But once we can purify that, and I think that's when we truly enhance our trust within each other, and that will show up, and we're gonna be kind, and we're gonna, all the things that we're looking for in other people, though, we have to be ourselves first.
Absolutely.
Because if not, we can't recognize it. So
absolutely, yeah.
Why do us people that have experienced trauma tend to sense situations before people that haven't? It's because we've gone through it and we know what it feels like. So we know whether it breaks out or not. I shared that story about going to New York and those guys yelling at each other. All I could do is just try to hold safe space, and like that they're going to come to and relax, and they're going to calm their voices, and they're not going to be cussing at each other, because it was escalating almost into the state of violence. But it was knowing that environment could kick off, and I wanted to hold that space for them, but also my own safety and well-being was, what, maybe I should move from the spot because I'm in physical proximity. If I could move across the street and I could still hold space I could walk down the street and still be holding space for them, but my physical body isn't going to be in the area that it could be harmed in. And having those awarenesses is a form of intuitiveness, Fiona. It's It's just feeling into things, whether they fully manifest or not. It's being able to kind of go into that and then be able to make take radical responsibility and make a choice of one way or the other, because that's ultimately all that we ever have. We have the choice to continue to stick it out for ourselves and for each other, or we can choose to let it go and move on in another direction. But those are still, everybody has those choices.
Yeah, it's when you are, for those people who are, we all have intuition, obviously, but it's about tapping into the subtleties. So, especially for people that are very empathic, their empathic abilities have been brought out from going through trauma. And so we become very sensitive to the subtleties of things. And that's very important. But as I put on my Awakening Your Intuition program picture, it says intuition is like a muscle. It must be practiced. Mm-hmm. Before we get off today, hopefully Chris has time for this. Since we're in this conversation, I want to mention this too, talking about energy and energy exchange, since we both were sharing about our free calls. And this is something that I think it can be a very sensitive topic to some people. And I actually feel it's important, I think, because I coached women in business and to make money for a while. And I went through this myself. I went through that struggle of, being in a new age spiritual communities, growing up with a family where we really didn't value money the way that we should. And there are so many different views of money. And one of the things that I try to do now is help people have a more healthy view of paying and sales and money, because nothing has meaning. Chris mentioned something earlier that made me want to share this too. In my mastermind today, we were talking about this. Nothing has meaning until you assign it meaning. Mm-hmm. So when you immediately jump to a conclusion and you think something has a meaning, it's because it's your belief. And earlier we were talking about the difference between belief and trust and faith. And they are very different things. All three of them are very different things. But beliefs are just repeated thoughts that you've come to believe, right? Because it's become your norm. So some of you out there, some people that have their own businesses and they're making millions of dollars, they know and have a belief system that supports matching their wanting to help and assist people with selling. Okay. And I do too now. When I sell people into my coaching program, first of all, I wouldn't let them come in unless I knew I could help them and they were a good match. But I see it as an energy exchange. I don't see it as sleazy sales. Okay. Like a lot of people do. I see it as helping them to make a powerful choice. And I want to share why. And this isn't me trying to tell you guys to go out and buy something or to pay for something, but I want you guys to understand a couple of things about energy and money and sales and paying. And the reason I want you to understand this and understand why Chris and I do the free calls is because you need to understand about an energy exchange and investing in yourself. Just like sales can have a negative side, selling can have a negative side. Of course, there's always going to be getting gypped and con artists out there. But the same thing happens when you buy a car or you buy a house or, you go out and I'm sorry, but Wendy's, if you drive through fast food now, it's like what 5 years ago, what's going out and eating out at a restaurant was. Since COVID's happened, if you drive through somewhere, it's expensive. So understand that a lot of it is the meaning that you give it. But at the core foundation of all this, guys, is an energy exchange that must happen on your part when you are wanting something or you're acquiring something. Maybe it's not always financial. Maybe it's not always money that you give. But what you need to understand about your life, whether it's relationships, whether it's money, whether it's growth and evolution. So I know I just stopped using the name Fiona. It doesn't matter. We're just talking fast food in general. I'm going to leave names out of it. Great way to get myself sued there. But I was just going to mention fast food names, but whatever fast foods are around you guys, that's just one example. Okay. The truth is that sure, we will always have lived in a world where at some point we're going to get screwed. But here's the other thing. You're never really screwed because the energy exchange universally always balances itself out. The question for you is, good, Tammy. I'm so glad. I'm going to get to your comment though, Tammy. Okay. The good thing about understanding this is that you have a powerful choice. So like if you get on here and you guys have questions or you've been trying to create change or healing or transformation or overcome addiction, the real question is, what are you willing to and what do you invest in yourself? Sometimes that's going to be money. You're going to have to pay for things for that investment. Sometimes it's going to be just your energy, like your effort. Sometimes it's going to be your time. But you have to really sit down. If you've gone 6 months or more, ask yourself, okay, what have I been investing in this? Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe you're having a relationship struggle. Okay. And you're feeling like you're investing more than the other person. Maybe they're feeling the same. But the question is, if things aren't matching up, most of us think we're giving more, right? So what are you really investing? And when we go back to what Chris was talking about before, where you really have to be radically honest with yourself, this is really important to understand. So when Chris and I say, I didn't even know he had this 30-minute free call. When Chris and I are both sharing, I'm not surprised since we both do this the same way. We come from the same place with this. When we're offering something free, and the word free really rubs me the wrong way. And there's a lot of reasons for that. It's because when I get on and I do lives, everybody always wants something for free. And what I want to tell you guys that a lot of people don't like to hear is that's not any better than someone trying to rope you in to an 8-week, $10,000 coaching program. It's not any better because giving something for free has to be something we give, right? It has to be given. If I get on and everybody's always wanting anything for free and nobody ever wants to go any deeper with it, it doesn't really have anything to do with the money. It has to do with the value of the energy of what I am contributing. So if I'm getting on and I'm willingly giving for free, that's one thing. But when you get on and you have people that are, always wanting stuff for free, you start to feel things sucked out of you. And you guys all know that. You all know what that means, where Chris was talking about we all have our thresholds. But it's not just that we have a threshold, my friends. It's that you can feel that within yourself. You can feel when that energy imbalance is happening. So why am I sharing all this with you? Because it's a very delicate, intricate, sensitive conversation, actually. Because you guys could be looking at me and thinking, well, I'm not going to trust her now. She's just trying to convince me about why to pay her. Okay, that's fine. You can think that. But understand that there's nothing really for free. Okay. And those of us in the spirit world, working with spirituality, everyone always thinks, oh, because they're doing spiritual work, it has to be for free or it's not spiritual. That's not true. I couldn't do what I do and help the people I do if I did everything for free.
Right.
I mean, really, I have struggled for years because what I don't charge and what I don't charge enough of. Don't you think that affects my family, my husband, my animals, what I can do? I mean, I can count the amount of times I've been on vacation in the last 10 years. All of that boils down to the people I've allowed to do things for free, not pay me, not want to pay me. And this isn't me bitching and complaining. This is me sharing with you guys that money is just a form of energy exchange. So it goes both ways, though. If you're looking for something that you want and need, maybe it's just buying a book. if someone gives you, oh, I got an extra copy, that's great. You've just been given that. But understand that you will always have to invest in yourself on multiple levels that all are energy. Okay, so if you want something, you want transformation, you want assistance, you want help, please know that we'll offer you as much as we can for free. But at some point in your life, whether it's therapy or a book or a retreat, you're probably going to have to invest in all levels. And often that means getting out of your comfort zone. And everything you want is on the other side of that comfort zone. Okay, so if you come to one of these calls with us, bring a notebook and pen. Be prepared, because the free time we're giving you, we want you to make use of. We want you to walk away one way or another and make use of that.
And that actually, just to jump in real quick while you're reading, Ward makes just tied right into that. Pain is not always that bad. I sometimes like to be in it. And yeah, it shows us our true potential. And, you know, those that go on extreme adventures and, you know, put themselves against the elements and, or, you know, extreme sports or, you know, anything like that will attest to that. Like, to know what you're truly capable of takes you pushing through the discomfort of the lack of pleasure. And most people that are not in control of their life, they're not in control of their mind, they're not in control of it, you know, much of anything. It's because they're just comfortable being there.
Yeah.
And they don't expect it to change. They don't want it to change. They're usually spending more time on what everybody else is doing rather than what they're doing, which is a way to be. You can totally be that. I've been that way in multiple stages of my life. And so I can recognize that and I can honor it. Has its place in time, but it doesn't need to be a continual season. And I think that is kind of how I want to wrap it up is, you know, everything has a season and a time, and developing the trust is being present of when that time is to push against the current and when is it time to just surrender into it and see what happens. Be swept away by the current of life. And, you know, one of the greatest phrases that in one of the songs that I love listening to, you know, it says, life will go on without you. So in the end, it's not about you.
I love that. I'd love a copy of that song.
It's I always mess up his name, Matisyahu. So he was like a Jewish rapper.
You'll have to send it to me.
I'll have to send it to you. Yeah, he's got a lot of good songs like that. But one of his songs, and it's just like, yeah, you know, when you're sitting at your house and you're in your stuff, life is going on without you, and that's okay, because that's when you get the chance to recharge your battery, recenter, reground, do whatever, relearn, unlearn, however you want to compartmentalize it in your mind to say that that's what you're doing. But that's part of the process. And then you can rejoin when it's the timing's right. And guess what? Those people that all probably disappeared because you weren't reaching out and you weren't going to all the things and whatever, they're still going to be kind and gracious and love you when you show back up to the things again. And then when you say, well, I just needed some time out, I needed to get, you know, whatever. If they truly love you, they're going to understand that everybody goes through that process. It was nothing personal, and you get to move on with life the way that it's intended to be. For everybody.
We all need that. And and I want to quick, right before we get off, I want a quick comment on, I don't know if Tammy's even on here. Looks like we only have one person on here right now, so I don't know who's on here. But, you know, Ward saying pain is not always bad. I sometimes like to be in it. Okay, so it becomes a comfort zone. I don't like to be in it personally, but it can become a comfort zone. But here's the thing, guys. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Pain, struggle, and suffering is when we choose to continue going on with the pain and the struggle, when we're not choosing something different. Okay, that's when we really suffer. But when you have hard times you're going through, when you have pain and struggling, and I say this on almost all my reading broadcasts now because people ask about transitioning out of their pain and struggle and suffering. The problem we make is that we always make decisions based on, two things. Either we move towards pleasure or we move away from pain. That's it. If both are an option, we'll always move away from the pain first. If we're not in pain, we'll move towards pleasure. But if we've got pain, we always move away from that first. The problem with that is that what you resist will persist. So when our natural egoic reaction is always, oh my God, get away from anything that's uncomfortable, that we don't like, that's unfamiliar, that causes us pain, struggle, and suffering, we make it worse. This is where the surrender comes in. This is where Eckhart Tolle says, be grateful. And Chris and I will get into gratitude because that's both of our favorite thing. Be grateful for the moment just as it is, no matter what it is. No matter what it is. And you see, it's these principles and foundations that when you guys know the principles and the foundations, that no matter what culture you are, no matter what race you are, no matter what religious, spiritual background you are, all of these things work. All of these things create a more authentic, genuine, beautiful, peaceful, abundant, happy, loving, fulfilling life. Peaceful life. Okay. And those are the same universally. So I think, that's very important to understand, and to understand that when you're having pain, it's telling you something, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional. It is not the situation itself that is the problem ever. That is just the vehicle for whatever it is that you need to learn. That pain, what better way to get your attention than an itch or pain, right? It's going to have your attention, and it's going to remain there until you become aware of it and you bring it into your awareness. Okay. Tammy, I don't know if you're still there. In case you listen to the rebroadcast, I'm going to comment on this. 30 years as a soldier conditioned me to hold my emotions inside. I'm trying to learn how to be more expressive by journaling at Larkin's recommendation. Yeah, I'm journaling queen. So, just keep in mind, guys, no matter what your conditioning is, no matter what the conditioning, you can recondition yourself.
Today's a new day.
Yes, you can reprogram yourself. Okay. And Fiona, that's fine. I love doing free readings. Just get on one of my free readings. Yes, I do paid animal and free readings, but this isn't about whether I get paid or not. That's nothing about what I was talking about. This has only to do with the fact that for those of us working in the spiritual community, there's this expectation that you're bad if you're asking to be paid. If you're charging for anything, it's wrong, it's bad. It's not. And it hurts both people in the community because they become afraid to charge. They feel ashamed for charging. It's an energy exchange. And what I was trying to refer to, Fiona, was your side of the fence. People who are on the side of the fence of wanting to create transformation, to step back and just take a look. If you've gone 6 months or more, perhaps you're not investing where you need to be investing, whatever that means. Time, money, energy, focus. And it definitely means you're not getting out of your comfort zone, which a lot of times we need to pay someone, and we need a community. Like Chris and I create communities for our clients. Why do you think the Tibetan monks live the life they do? Why do people in the military go off and live all together and train together? It's because if you want to maintain a certain mindset and lifestyle and set of knowledge and awareness, you have to be in a community and in an environment that nurtures that. And if when you leave, your only time for that is our hour together here, and then you guys run off somewhere else to the rest of the world, guess what? The rest of the world is asleep. The rest of the world's going to suck you back in, and you're going to get back into mainstream thinking. So that's why Chris and I were talking about it's so important to have that community and that outside support. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. We've gone over, but this is brilliant, Chris, as usual. And guys, if you didn't hear the last broadcast we did, please do. The last part was just me, but I'm still blown away by that, Chris. I mean, it was just completely inspired by Chris's part. And I wish I could, it gives me chills. I wish I could get everyone on the planet to just listen to what he said in that broadcast, because it was divinely and soul inspired. And, you know, they're not out of date. If you listen to the rebroadcast, guys, they are not. I listen to things from Dr. Wayne Dyer from 20, 30 years ago. They're never out of date when they're inspired the way Chris's was. So please listen to that.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind.
I love it. I still love it.
All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, Facebook, YouTube, all that kind of stuff, to get notifications of all the things that we've got going on and when we do go live. Thanks again for tuning in to our new time, new day, all that kind of stuff. And we'll see you next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Much love and gratitude for everything you are, everything you do, and everything you choose to be. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.